We are counting down the days until the 2022 NFL Draft kicks off in 2 weeks in Las Vegas, Nevada. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Brooke Steach alongside Tim Rogers and Josh Bartosik, and tonight we'll be doing our third installment in the Penn State Sports Night mock draft series. Tim, I'll start with you. Who are your top picks on the board this year?
Honestly, I am so excited for the draft. It's so close. It's coming up so quickly. And as a Jets fan, this is all I got right now. So maybe not for some of you guys who are Steelers fans here, but for the Jets, this is what we got. And I'm going to start off with a big storyline here with Trayvon Walker being ahead of Kayvon Thibodeau. That's been something that we're seeing a lot right now. I don't truly understand it. I think KT is a better prospect, better athlete. But right now, Trayvon Walker, I have him going number 2. I think next, the big step that we have to look at is the Giants here. Giants need a lot of help, right? Especially in the secondary and the O-line. What do they get? 2 absolute stars in those positions. I think Ike Ekwanoa is an absolute young stud to play on this offensive line for the Giants. He could play tackle. He could play guard. You can move him anywhere, and that's exactly what the Giants need. They need that flexibility. And a guy like Kyle Hamilton. I mean, you want to talk about the best prospect probably in the draft right now, it is Kyle Hamilton. I think athlete-wise, safety may not be that important on position, but to have a cornerback or a safety, rather, who can play cornerback is something that's very hard to find in the NFL. Next up, I got Malik Willis being the first quarterback off the board tonight. Seeing a lot of people think that Seattle or other teams are going to trade up, I just don't think there's a huge upside with Malik Willis to do that. I think, look, you're looking at a prospect right now, and the last prospect is Josh Allen. So a guy like that was recognized to be a project, and I think that's why a lot of teams want to maybe trade up for him. Just for that, Josh Allen is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I don't think there's a debate about that. So I think that's why a lot of teams might want to trade up for him. I personally wouldn't, and I don't think Seattle will either. We have the Jets making a trade. I'll get to that later. So we'll switch it over now to the New Orleans Saints on the second half here, and they're taking the next quarterback in Kenny Pickett. Obviously, they made a trade. I think they're going to take a receiver first. Michael Thomas has been having some issues staying healthy, but they got to get their guy in Kenny Pickett, and I think that's exactly what they'll do. At pick 22, Chris Olave going to the Green Bay Packers. Boy, do they need help, and boy, does Aaron Rodgers need help right now. Not only did they lose, the best receiver, in my opinion, in Devontae Adams, but MVS is an absolute young, very fast receiver that a lot of people don't know, and I think him leaving is actually going to be a big factor, and I think that's why they take Chris Olave. At 25, Penn State's own Jahan Dotson goes to the Bills. Oh, my God. If that happens, especially being in the AFC East, please help us. Because, Jahan Dotson is an absolute star. You pair him with Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis coming off a 4-touchdown game in the playoffs against the Chiefs. You got to look at the Bills as the favorites here if that happens. And I'm going to end it up with the Chiefs. Obviously, a lot of people have the Chiefs making a trade, right? I think they stay content and take a guy like Sky Moore, who's a little bit smaller, a little bit faster. Who does he remind you of? Maybe Tyreek Hill a little bit. Obviously, he doesn't have the upside like Tyreek Hill does, but a plug-in guy that maybe Mahomes can get some comfortability with and some chemistry with is something that I think the Chiefs will do to stay put.
Yeah, Tim, I love to agree with you, but I do have a couple of things different on my draft. I am going to start with the number 2 pick in Trayvon Walker, like you mentioned. I think the main thing with him is that there's been a lot of issues character-wise with Thibodeau. And, Dan Campbell, he loves his character guys. Trayvon Walker has been known to be one of those big guys. He loves his heart. But going to the Giants, I think if you see a guy like Ahmad Gardner at 7 available to you, I don't think he falls to 10 at the Jets. I'm sorry. I think you got to take a guy like Gardner. You need some help. I agree with Malik Willis at 9. I think the Jets take a receiver at 10. They need receiver help, especially with Ahmad Gardner off the board. I don't really have any trades in mind. I think Devin Lloyd goes to the Commanders. He's a really solid guy. I think Stingley, coming off his injury, falls a bit in the draft, but I think the Vikings get a really solid guy there. I have Hamilton falling to 13 just because he is probably the best athlete and versatility-wise, but there's just so many other teams that have bigger needs than him, and there is questions with just his ability of play when it comes to bringing it to the next level, and I think the Texans have a lot of needs. He fills a lot of those. I think the Eagles take a receiver in Jameson Williams. You pair him with Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. That's a scary team right there. And then with the Saints, my last pick I'm going to go into real quick. Bernard Raymond, he's a solid offensive lineman out of Central Michigan. They just lost Armstead in the offseason to the Dolphins, so they need some O-line help. And if you're going to roll with Winston for maybe another year or two, that's probably the best way to go, is to get one of the solid last linemen here. Now, the second half of my draft, a little bit controversial. We'll start with Devontae Wyatt. Chargers need run defense so badly. He's going to fill that spot. I'm going to go to 19. Matt Corral. You had Kenny Pickett. Matt Corral was one of the better quarterbacks coming out before he got injured. I think he's still one of those guys. I think his injury, while being slightly significant, I think it won't really do a whole lot for his play, decreasing it in any amount. And I think he's the perfect project quarterback for the Saints. he can start when Winston leaves. I think he's the perfect guy. Now, another big pick I have, I know that Brooke really wants Kenny Pickett to go to the Steelers. I think Desmond Ridder goes there. The Steelers love Desmond Ridder. I'll get into that a little bit later. But you got guys like Trent McDuffie. I agree with Olave. I think the Packers get him. Now, I do agree with the Bills getting a receiver, but I think they go for Burks. I don't see Burks going higher than like the mid or late first round. He's a great athlete, has so much potential. He hasn't reached yet. That's scary. You pair him with Diggs and Davis, like you mentioned. That's an unreal wide receiver room. To the Chiefs, I have them getting Dotson. They love their speed. Dotson's got that speed. I agree with Booth. They need defensive back help. I have Linderbaum falling all the way to 31 just because I don't really trust Big Ten linemen. You know, we haven't seen them really do a whole lot when it comes to NFL play. And I still have Kenny Pickett going in the first round. I have him going to the Lions. I think they want a quarterback for the future. Jared Goff isn't that guy. I think Kenny Pickett has a pretty safe option at 32.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of interesting picks there. I'm surprised that you have Kenny going at 32, but hey, you know, hopefully he goes to the Steelers, like I said. But, you know, there's a lot of open spots we see here in this draft and a lot of the unknowns. So what are some interesting, like, trades and surprises you guys think that, like, are going to happen in this draft?
Now, look, I have one trade, and let me get it out of the way. I know, I'm a Jets fan. I get it. But when you look at this trade that is going to happen, it makes a lot of sense. There's no question in my mind that the Jets are taking an edge rusher as 4. As that's exactly what they need. They signed Carl Lawson last season. He tore his Achilles, so he was out for the entire season, and you don't know what he's going to come back to, right? You got a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau who is considered to be a raw athlete. Like, he is just a pure athlete. You can teach the skills. You can't teach athleticism and size. That's just something that's God-given. So if you do that and pair him on the other side with Carl Lawson, that's scary. And I think the Jets take at 10 Sauce Gardner. I know they need a receiver, and that's why they make this trade. As I think they trade with the Eagles for pick 15. They give up pick 38, 66, and also 111. I think that's fair. I think the Eagles are just gathering draft capital, and a pick at 35, that's still a day one starter. I don't think a lot of people realize that I'd say the top 40, maybe the top 50 are true starters that can just plug into your team right away, and especially with how deep this draft class is. I don't think a lot of people are talking about that either. So at 15, I have the Jets taking Treylon Burks. I know you're like, why not Jameson Williams, right? Treylon Burks is an animal, and he is one of those up there, throw it up, and he'll bring it down type of receivers, which, oh, by the way, the Jets have been trying to get an A.J. Brown or a DK Metcalf. Jets fans, it's not happening. It's not realistic. So get a guy in the draft. Build for the draft. That's what this Jets team is. Last year, they were considered to be the youngest team in the NFL. Why don't you just keep doing that and build the right way?
I mean, I can see that possibly happening. I just really, again, I don't think Ahmad Gardner drops to 10. I think you're being a little optimistic there. Now, Brooke, I am going to have to explain my pick in Desmond Ridder along with Kenny Pickett going behind him. The Steelers love Desmond Ridder. They've come out and they've said that they really want an athletic, a scrambling quarterback. You know, that's the new age. I think we can all agree that Big Ben Roethlisberger was just not that guy. He's about as mobile as a tree, as some might say. So Desmond Ridder, fantastic athlete. He showed what he could do in Cincinnati. He's really, really solid at scrambling out of the pocket. Arm strength is kind of a concern, but you can get weapons to help him in the second and later rounds. Steelers love drafting key receivers in those later rounds. Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, all later round picks. Matt Corral, I kind of touched on that long-term product. I think it's perfect for the Saints. I think he fits very well in their scheme that they play. If Michael Thomas stays healthy, I think in the future, Matt Corral could really be a steal in this draft falling that low. I personally thought he was one of the better quarterbacks in this draft. And then Kenny Pickett at 32. Look, I kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm not super high on Kenny Pickett. Overall, I think the ACC was one of the weaker divisions in the Power 5, especially or even in all of college football, really. And yes, putting up the amount of touchdowns they did was great. But this is a team that lost to Western Michigan in the start of the season with Kenny Pickett as their quarterback. I just don't see it. I don't think that you can see the talent translate. I know that guys like Lamar Jackson have come in and they've really shown the talent. But Lamar Jackson was a Heisman winner. And personally, he showed a lot more in college than I think I ever saw from Kenny Pickett. So I'm not super high on Kenny Pickett. I think he's a safe pick at 32, and the Lions also have the 34th pick, so they can get someone like an edge rusher or DB if they really feel like it.
I really like Kenny Pickett to the Steelers just because of the hometown story, but there's a lot of great quarterbacks on the board, so I'm personally excited to see who the Steelers pick and all these other teams as well. We'll have to wait and see where the newest NFL stars will land in 2 weeks. Thank you for tuning in into our 2022 mock draft series. For Tim Rogers and Josh Bartosik, I'm Brooke Steach. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.